Hello, am I audible?
Yeah,
Yes,
yeah.
Pyle, you're audible.
Yes, you're
Yes.
audible.
Yes.
Uh,
I request all of you to not mute people or remove people. Please cooperate.
Also, it is expected if you do not turn on your mics and write anything you want within the chat. In the end, we'll have a live session where you can actually say whatever you want to. It's better if you do not interrupt between the session. If it's urgent, write in the chat box.
Let's start the session. Hello, freshers. Web and Coding Club welcomes you to IIT Bombay. I am Payal Chaudhary, a convener,
Hi,
and,
I'm Divyanshi Kamra. I'm another convener.
and we welcome you to the orientation of Web and Coding Club. What do? We help you write your first piece of code. We come up with lots of initiatives, projects for beginners as well as advanced. We have something in store for everyone. We provide resources on a wide range of topics ranging from competitive coding to blockchain. We also have our community wherein you can interact with like minded people and explore more about specific fields.
We have a lot of initiatives. I'll just summarize a few initiatives we have had already. So we organize workshops, hackathons, and competitions. So today's event is one example of the workshops and hackathons we organize. Generally, we'll be having workshops on different topics where you can explore the topics, and after which it will be followed by a hackathon where you can try and test your skills. Hello Force was one of the events organized this year in October, and the open source projects were released, and a lot of people contributed to it. We'll have it next year as well. We hope you all participate. Okay, we also organize webinars, reflections, and interactions. So webinars are given by our alumni and professors. Reflections are actually discussions with your seniors. They tell you about their experience of their internship and the technical knowledge they learned there. And interactions, they are like casual interactions you can have with your seniors or different conveners within the club to know about the field or discuss anything you feel like. Seasons of Code is the biggest initiative, and you actually do your first major coding project as a freshman under Seasons of Code. Most of us have done our first coding project, like major coding project under Seasons of Code. You get a mentor, and he guides you throughout the project to come up with a good project. Generally, every team has 5 to 6 members.
Resources. The Wiki. Want to become a coder but don't know where to start? Go to Wiki. Are you from non-CS background? Not sure how to proceed with CSS career? Head over to our wiki. You need resources on how to start a particular language? Check out our wiki. So yeah, Web and Coding Club wiki, or what we like to call it the Grundy, is your go-to-go companion for a wide range of resources. Make sure you check them out. I'll drop the link to wiki in the text box soon. These articles have been compiled by your very own seniors in the past few years. Next, we have Code in Quarantine. When lockdown was announced, the world witnessed an increase in the number of coders. Like people wanted to do something productive, and the Web and Coding Club, got them covered. The CIQ initiative covered all the major fields of programming like Python, competitive programming, development, blockchain, ML. It has resources and some tasks which you can try out to check your grip over the materials. Do check our CIQ repository on our GitHub. Next, Algorithm Simplified. This was an initiative to expose people to various kinds of algorithms. Short 15-minute videos followed by resources and detailed explanation for 8 different algorithms like A star, encryption, probabilistic algorithms were put up every week. People did appreciate the simulations and a lot of people attempted and discussed them. You can find the links to Algo Simplified on our social media pages as well as our GitHub handle. Learner Space. Learner Space was an 8-week program in collaboration with the Undergraduate Academic Council. We ran 3 courses, namely Python, Development, and Machine Learning. The resources for all the 3 courses have been compiled well and in very detail. These courses have been structured, keeping in mind the interest of all. It has beginner level topics and then the level rises. If you are a newbie and want to explore these topics, referring to these resources might be the best option for you. Do check out our learner space resources on GitHub.
Community WNCC is basically a community of lot of coders where you get help. You get to along with a lot of people with similar interests. So we have 3 major communities: DevCom, CP other at IITB, and Blockchain Circle. DevCom is a developers community. So we have a lot of developers here. They develop development projects for different tech projects for various activities. Some of them were like InstiApp, resume verification portal, and the recently released gaming portal, which was released by DevCom. And CP other ITB is for you to get in people who have similar interest in competitive programming, and Blockchain Circle if you wish to discover blockchain. So the best part of communities is you get to work with a lot of seniors, and our seniors are really super geniuses, so you get to learn a lot from them.
Now that you have a basic introduction for our club, it is time for you to know the club's managers and conveners. I am Payal Chaudhary. I'm a convener of Web and Coding Club, obviously. I'm from Metallurgy. I am into app development mostly. So yeah, you can ping me anytime for app development resources or doubts. I was also the tech freshman of the year. So yeah, something to flex about. Yeah, that's all about me.
Hi, I'm Divyanshi Kamra. I'm from Electrical, and I am a WNCC convener and a part of developers community. I have interest in development, machine learning, and automation, basically using DL for autonomous vehicles. And you can message any of us freely, and we can have a discussion about anything you wish to have. Like, is Latika on the call?
Hello, I'm Divyansh. Okay. May I go for?
I think go ahead.
So hello, I'm Divyansh. I'm another convener and I'm chemical sophomore. You can ping me anytime to get your doubts resolved. I'm like mostly in web development and competitive coding, and now I'm exploring ML and AI. So yeah, feel free to ping me.
Hi, I am Akshit, the manager of Web and Coding Club. And in fact, if you don't know, we are 2 managers and 9 conveners, and we work together to bring all of this to you. And I'm in metallurgy and I'm a 3rd-year student. I don't have a particular field currently. I am into web dev, machine learning as well, a bit of OpenCV as well. So that's about it. I guess Latika hasn't joined yet. Let's continue.
Hello.
I think the conveners are on the call.
Hello. Hi. I'm Abhishek. I'm another WNCC convener. I'm EMS Sophie, and I'm mostly into web dev and ML, especially computer vision. So yeah, you can ping me if you have any doubts or something.
Hi, I'm Atharva Rao. I'm also a convener in WNCC. I don't have any particular interest as such, but I do a bit of CP, a bit of web dev, app dev. So yeah, you can ping me if you have a general idea.
Hi, this is Ankit from CSE department. I'm into a lot of competitive programming and deep learning reinforcement learning. So you can ping me anytime for any help or anything as such.
So yeah, let's start with the HTML workshop. Workshop on HTML, CSS and web hosting. HTML stands for Hypertext Markup Language. It is an HTML file is a text file containing small markup tags. Like this is a tag, this is a BR, this is a break tag about which you'll learn sometime. These markup tags tell the web browser how to display the image. So the entire HTML file consists of small tags like this. So this is a typical HTML file. This just has a title and a body which prints hello freshies. Web and Coding Club welcomes you to IIT Bombay. An HTML file starts with a type declaration. This is more like a preamble of the HTML file. Then we have a root element or the HTML tag. The title just gives a title to our web page. Then there is body. Everything that you see in the web page is written inside this body. And generally tags, there are opening tags and closing tags. I'll tell you about this later on. Let us run and check out this code. So this is my VS Code editor. You can use Notepad for now, or you can use other editors like Sublime, or I generally prefer to use VS Code. This is the same code which I showed you. Let's run this. So yeah, this is the web page. This is the title, Hello Freshies, and this is the body, Hello Freshies Web and Coding Club welcomes you to IIT Bombay. So this is the result of running this code. HTML tags are attributes. Yeah, so HTML, as I said, HTML tags are used to mark up HTML elements. They are surrounded by the angle bracket tags. So you already saw there was an opening angle bracket and a closing angle bracket. These tags come in pairs. So you have an opening tag and then you have a closing tag. The element content is something that is written between these start and end tags. Tags are not case sensitive, so a small b tag is same as capital B tag, but conventionally we use lowercase letters. And tags generally also have an attribute which contain additional information, like the style attributes, image with attributes, image src. So yeah, this is how a tag looks, an element looks like. It has an opening tag, a closing tag, and the image content. Headings. Headings in HTML are defined with the H1 to H6 tags, H1 being the most important heading and H6 is used for the least important headings. This is how you define a heading, H1 tag, then you write the content and the closing heading tag. Paragraphs. Paragraphs are defined with the P element. So yeah, you start with the opening P tag, then followed by the content of the paragraph and the closing P tag. Breaks are empty tags. So in HTML, formatting is not based on white spaces. Like simply giving white spaces won't help you. You'll have to use tags for that. For a horizontal rule or a thematic break, you'll have to use the HR tag. And for a line break, you'll be using the BR tag. Now these tags are called empty tags, which means they do not have end tags. Like for the normal tags, we had an opening tag, like opening tag and a closing tag, right? But for these tags, you don't have a closing tag. You just have the opening tag. So they are called empty tags. So let us put to use whatever we have learned so far. So yeah, this is a code wherein I've tried to use the heading, the break tags, and the paragraph tag. This is the same title. I have just written the title, heading, para, breaks. The body consists of a heading, Web Encoding Club, followed by two HR tags. So what do you expect the HR tag to do? To a thematic rule, a normal horizontal rule, right? So we expect two horizontal rules. Then we have a break tag. So you expect a vertical break, and then followed by another rule line, and then we expect a paragraph on Web Encoding Club. Let's run and check this out. Yeah. So we expected the heading, then two horizontal rules, then a break, another horizontal rule, and then the paragraph, right? Yeah. List. So for the list, we have two kind of lists, unordered and ordered. For the unordered, we have bulleted list, and for the ordered, we have numbered list. For the unordered list, we start with the UL tag. UL stands for unordered list, and then each elements are written within the LI tags. For the ordered list, we start with OL or ordered list, and then similar to the unordered list, each element starts and ends with the LI tag. For formatting, you have various kinds of tags. You can check them out on internet. Some of them are for boldface, we use B or strong tags. For italics and emphasized letter text, we use I or EM tags. Hyperlinks. An anchor tag is used to create a hyperlink or define an anchor within a page. So this is how you define a hyperlink. The href attribute is important because this is what indicates a link destination. So you just plug in the value of your URL, and voila, whenever you click on the link text, you'll be directed to the URL. Images. The image tag is used to insert an image or GIF. So this is how you define an image. Technically, these images are not inserted in a web page. They are linked, and the image tag creates a holding creates an holding. Image tag is also an empty tag, which means it won't have a closing tag. It just has the opening tag. The SRC attribute specifies the path or URL to the image, just like the href attribute here. SRC attribute defines the path or URL to the image. Remember, if you're using local images, like if you have images in your desktop, in your device itself, then make sure you save the images in the same folder as the HTML file. Now there's something called alt attribute. Sometimes due to some reason like broken link or error in SRC code, or SRC attribute, or poor internet connection, the image is not visible. So you get something like this. In such cases, the value of alt or alternate tag describes the image briefly. So here you have image SRC is cutecat.jpg, and in case cutecat is not available, the alternate text, some content here is visible to us. So yeah, coding cat is back. Let's write some code, some piece of code, and run it. Yeah. So here I've tried to include list, formatting, and links and images. So what do we expect here? This is the same as the other two codes. Here we expect a heading. What do we do? Then we expect an ordered list with 3 elements, and then a horizontal rule line, another heading to know more about us, and then an unordered list. We also expect we expect links here, because I have given the anchor tags, and the initiative for you guys should be written out in bold, while provide resources should be written out in italics because of the B and I tags respectively. Let's run and check it out. Yeah. So this is what we expected, right? We expected a heading, we expected an ordered list with 3 elements, we expected a horizontal rule, another heading, followed by an ordered list. These are the links, so you can check them out. If you can check them out later on. We expected initiative for you guys to be written out in bold. Here it is, and provide resources is written in italics as we expected it to be. Next. Styles. So the style attribute is used to add styles to an element such as font, color, size, alignment. This is how we define a style tag. We write the tag style attribute. We write the tag name, then followed by the style attribute, and then we have property and value. This value is a property CSS property value. You'll learn about CSS in the next part of the session, and the value which we assign to the property. Examples: body style. This the first statement will make the background of the body to red in color. The second one for the second one, this changes the font family of the entire paragraph to Comic Sans. The third command basically changes the font size to 160% of the original size. And for the fourth line, for the fourth example, it will center align the text of the paragraph. Tables. Tables are defined with the table tag. Each table row is defined with a TR tag, and each table header is defined with a TH tag. So this is the table header, and this is the table row. This is the table header, yeah. And then you have each element, each data is defined with the TD tag. So here is a code for the table. You start with the table tag followed by the table row. So this is this thing. It starts from TR and ends with the closing TR tag. This is one row. This is another row, and this is a third row. So you have 3 rows here. So TH tag defines the table header. So you have 2 headers, namely name and POR. So yeah, these are the headers. Then each data element is defined with the TD tag. So yeah, these two, Anirudh, Mittal, and GSTA, these are the 2 data elements in one single row, and there's another row with 2 different data elements again. So yeah, Akshit and Latika and Web and Coding Club managers. This is another row. Responsive. In simple words, a responsive web design is something which looks good on all devices. Like if you use it on laptop or your phone, it will automatically adjust for different screens. The meta tag is used to create a responsive website. So this is how you make a website responsive. This will set the viewport of the page, and this will give instructions how to control the page dimensions and the scaling of the web page. So the CoderCat is happy. CoderCat learned a lot of new things, right? Now CoderCat wants to check out all of these tags in one single website. Let's do this for the CodingCat. Yeah, so this is the code. This is the code. I made a basic web page of Web and Coding Club. I've used all the tags that I mentioned about. Let's have a brief run through the code. So this is the same as doc type HTML. So here within the head tags, I've added the meta tag to make the web page responsive. The title of the web page is Web and Coding Club. For the body, we'll have an image on the we'll have an image. The SRC, I have given the web link to the image which we want to display. In case the image is not visible, we want an alternate text called WNCC. For then next we have a H1 heading. We have given a style attribute which will align it to the center of the web page. The heading says Web and Coding Club. Then we expect a horizontal rule. Next we have a H2 heading. So yeah, we expect the size of the second heading to be smaller than the first heading. Then we expect a paragraph, the same paragraph which I showed you. Another horizontal rule. Then we expect another H2 heading. What do we do? Then an unordered list. Again a horizontal rule. Again a heading. Then we expect a table with 2 headers, name of the project and coder, and then 4 4 rows with 2 data elements each. After the table, we expect a horizontal rule, and then we expect a heading, another paragraph, and then another unordered list. Yeah, so this is what we expect. Let's run this. Yeah, so this is what we expected, an image, center aligned heading. The size of the first heading is smaller. The size of the second heading is smaller than the first heading as we expected. Horizontal rules as we expected. A paragraph, an unordered list. We expected a table with these as the headers and 4 rows with 2 data elements each. We expected another unordered list. And yeah, about the responsiveness, I'll show you. So yeah, see, everything adjusted according to the size of the web page. So this is what we call the responsiveness of an image of a web page. Okay. So yeah, HTML part of the session is almost done. Here are some memes to lighten up your mood. Get geared up for CSS, because that's actually something where people get stuck. So yeah, lighten up your mood a bit. Okay, this one. Tell your friends that you know HTML and Java and get 500 requests to design a website for free. So yeah, this is from personal experience. You'll get requests to design a website or apps for free. Hope the coding cat within you enjoyed this. This brings to the end of the HTML part of the workshop. Web and Coding Club. Now Devdanshi can take over the CSS part of the workshop. So yeah, if you want to see them line by line, here it is. Okay, I can run this on Notepad as well. So yeah, this is a Notepad file. This was the notepad file, right? Hello. It will directly open in your web browser. Okay, yeah. Okay, let me just close all of them. Yeah, now. So yeah, this is how you run your code on Notepad.
So we are assuming since most of you people might not be having VS Code, so you can use Notepad and it's completely fine and it works absolutely okay. So this is how she just showed you how you can do it.
Can we get URL for this page such that others can access this page?
Okay, so that will be at the end of this session when we will be having website hosting. Right now we are opening these web pages on local servers. So when you host it on a URL, you need to host it on a URL to get it as a public domain for everyone. So we'll do it at the end of the session after HTML and CSS.
Okay, so why was one in the dark mode? Because of the extension. I have a Chrome extension for the dark mode, and that's why it is. For normal computers, normally it will work fine. It will work the same way as in both the cases. I have a Chrome extension, that's why.
So again, you do not need any app for writing and compiling HTML code. You can simply open Notepad on your computers, write this code and open it in a browser, Google Chrome or Firefox, anything you use, and it will run absolutely fine. In case you want, you can use text editors like Sublime Text and Visual Studio Code. They just help you write the code faster. Like if you write the opening tag, it will add the closing tag on its own, and it will provide you some other features like live server and stuff. Yeah, just need to find the .html extension. So I'll repeat the process if someone got confused. Just open Notepad, write the HTML code, save it with the .html extension, and open it in the web browser. That's it. You're done. That's how you make an HTML file.
Are anyone speaking?
No, no one's speaking right now. We'll begin with CSS, I think. If anyone has doubts in HTML, they can come up, else we'll begin with CSS. So let's begin with CSS. Are my slides visible? Can someone confirm?
Yes, your slide.
Yes, they are.
And also, is my voice okay? Like, is it too loud or is there any disturbance?
No, it's
Audio.
fine.
It's clear.
Okay,
It's
so
clear.
let's start. So by now we have seen how we build websites with using just HTML. So our website looks something like this right now. Like we just saw one when Payal showed. So, but the websites we generally see look like this, or this, or this. And the main fact is all these three slides that I showed you have the same content, exact same HTML files, but they have different style sheets, which makes them look extremely different and makes them more user interactive, like just more comfortable to use or more attractive to use. So we use style sheets to add design to our and style to our pages. So we use CSS for it. What it is, it's actually just add a .css extension to a file and use it as a style sheet. I'll tell you later how in what all ways can you use your CSS sheets. So CSS is basically cascading style sheets, and CSS describes how HTML elements are to be displayed on the screen. It gives design to every element of the HTML which you describe in your HTML file. And external style sheets are stored in CSS files. That is, whenever you use an external style sheet, that is, you add a style sheet externally, you add a .css extension to it. I'll tell you later how exactly it is done. So first, let's see what is the syntax of writing in CSS. So to write in CSS, we write in this syntax. So this is a selector, and you write selector points to an HTML element you want to style, and there are different types of selectors which I will be covering just after this. So you write a selector which, like, this is an HTML element. This is for a division UL. You can write here paragraph or H1 tag, and then you make curly braces to add design, and inside the curly braces you make declarations, and declarations have two things: property and a value. Property is the thing you want to assign. It can be font. For font you write font family. For line height you write line height. For background color you write background. Okay, and value is the value you assign to it, like 1.8 em for the line height. For the background we have assigned value dark green, and when we assign values, like say a height 20 pixels or something, we do not add spaces. Like 1.8 there is no space, and then you have next you have em, so you do not put a space here between the number and the unit. So this is how you write in a CSS syntax. The declaration block contains one or more declarations separated by semicolons. So this is one declaration, this is another declaration. Both of them have been separated by semicolons. You also have a semicolon in the end. And each declaration includes a CSS property and a value separated by a semicolon. A colon. And you can write that's it. So all of them are surrounded inside curly braces, and outside we have selectors. Selectors could be classes, IDs, or elements of the name of the tags in the HTML. Let's emphasize what are exactly selectors. So you can use element selectors, which is nothing like here I've used. Okay, so just to add style to your HTML file, within it you use a style tag. So I've done nothing here, but inside the head tag I've added one more tag named style, and I'll be adding my CSS information inside this tag. So inside this, I've written P, two curly braces, and this is a property, this is its value, this is one declaration, this is another declaration, this is the property, color is a property, and red is the value assigned to it. And here I've used P as the selector, which means every element inside the HTML file, which is a P element, will be center aligned and will have red color. So this is my body. So every P tag inside this is center aligned and has red color. Like all these, every paragraph will be affected by this style, this one and this one too. But these three lines aren't in red or center aligned. These are in the default format of the browser because these are not P tags. These are H4 tags. And this one is again in red and in center because this is a P tag. Another way to use a selector is you do not take all the elements, like not all the paragraphs. You just want one particular paragraph to have one particular design. So you use IDs. IDs are generally assigned in this way. You just write ID equal to, and inside commas, inside you write this para1. So I have assigned this an ID, name it para1. ID is generally unique for every element inside the HTML file. So here I have assigned ID equal to para1, which means this particular specific unique element will have certain design which I assign here. So to write a selector for IDs, we first add a hashtag and then write the ID name. So hashtag para1 will denote to this particular ID, this particular unique element of the HTML file, and will center align it and add red color to it. So here I have two P tags, this one hello world, and this is this paragraph, the second line. Only the first line has red color and is center aligned, and the second line does not have red color or a center line because it isn't added a style. You have added style only to the element which has ID para1. Do not forget the syntax. Use hashtag before writing the ID names when you want to add styles to your ID. So and yes, these are on the left I've written codes, and on the right I've also printed the outputs just for convenience. You can run it on your server and you will see this output when you run this code, okay? So you also have a class selector. So all the elements which have a particular class will be assigned it. So here I have given like class is also given name like ID. So H1 class equal to center. This one P element has a class equal to center. And inside the style tag, like we used hashtag before the ID name, we use dot before the class name. So dot center will cover all the properties which are supposed to be given to all the elements which have class as center. So it will, I've again given the same property, it will center align it and give it the color red. So this is a red and center aligned heading, and this is a red and center aligned paragraph. So there are other selectors like instead, like suppose you want to give this same design to H4 as well. So you won't write again H4 tag and make curly braces and text align colon center. What would you do is we'll just write here H2 comma P. That is called group selector. It will give then H2 and P both the tags, H4 and P both the tags will have this property, and this will also come in red and in center. And there is also called a universal selector, where you instead of this you just add a star. And universal selector means everything you add inside that star the declarations you add inside the star will be followed for the entire page. So I write background color blue inside a star, so the entire page will have background color blue. I write font family equal to Times New Roman, so the entire page will have the font Times New Roman. We also have a few interesting selectors. So there is one thing called pseudo class and pseudo element. So we'll just do some little bit of it to see how it actually goes. So this is a pseudo class example. So when you hover over the first link, it will change its color. Let's see why is it happening. So see, this one changes color while this one doesn't. Let's just see why is it happening. So here I have taken a dot highlight and I've assigned it some property inside my style tags. So first let's see what is a dot highlight, which tag does this respond to. So this is a tag, these two are a tags, and this one has class highlight. And as I mentioned earlier, when we add styles to a class, use dot and then the name of the class. So it's a dot highlight, it responds to this particular link. And when you add a pseudo class, you add a colon and then write say a property, say hover. There are a few other properties which you can add, like for the visited and the unvisited links, you can discover them. This is just an example. So when I hover over this website, it will change color to FF0000, which is actually red color. So this is a format of giving colors. And I'll be covering how do you, there are different ways in which you can give colors as well. So that's the reason this link does not change color when I hover over it, while this link changes to red when I hover over it. And it changes back to its original color when I move my mouse apart from it. So this is how you give it: a.highlight colon hover. So this is done for a pseudo class. You add a colon. So when you do it for a pseudo element, you add 2 such colons. Let's just do it. So here I've just used this property to do something a little more interesting. The same hover property which I showed you earlier, but just used with a different format. So what have I done is, here inside this HTML body, we have a div tag and a p tag. Hover over me to show me the p element. P is something. So if you see here, you can only see this. You cannot see this p, the information which is given inside this p tag on the output. So let's see the style sheet. Why isn't it visible? So according to the style sheet, the p tag has been assigned display to none and given a background color and a padding. So since its display is put to none, we cannot see a p tag here which says tada, here I am. We can only see it when we hover over the div tag. We get to see the p tag, because the properties we have assigned is, when I hover over the div tag, the p tag gets the property that display is supposed to be block. So when I hover over the p element, I can see the p tag. All right, so this is just another example where I used a pseudo element, this one, to just do something which looks a little more amazing, maybe. And you can also add a special design for a particular element using the pseudo class and pseudo element. So pseudo element is like you use a certain different property for a particular element. So you want the first letter of a paragraph to have certain different properties. So what do? You take a p tag for a paragraph, just take a p tag. Then you want this one line to have it. So let's just give it a class dot intro. So when I want to take it here, I'll just add p dot intro. This corresponds to this line now. Now I want its first letter to have some different properties. So I'll just add 2 colons, which makes it a pseudo. This is a syntax to write the pseudo element, and I'll write first letter. This will automatically give its correspondence to the first letter of this paragraph, which has class tag intro. Now what do I want to do? I want its color to be FF40000, which is red color, and I want its font size to be 200%. And if you see it here, this particular line has the first element red in color and bigger in size. This does not have it because it does not have the class intro. If I just add class intro to this as well, this will also have the same property. So since it's p dot intro, this particular class got this, and this particular element of this particular class has this property. If I remove this again and run it, this will again go, because the second line does not belong to the class dot intro. Okay, so with this little properties, you can also make like cool transitions. So if you see this transition has been made with the property I just told you. So all I've done is I've used this hover property to change the width. So you need to just add one more line into the div tag, and that's transition. You just mention which property do you want a transition, and in how much time do you want the transition. So transition width 2 seconds. So you have a transition on the width of this element and for 2 seconds. So when I hover over the div, the width changes to 300 pixels. It's a transition on the width which takes 2 seconds to change the pixels from 100 to 300 of the width. So this is how you make simple transitions using CSS. You're free to explore many such more cool transitions and things you can do with these properties. So as I said, there are different ways of using CSS. So right now what we did was we were putting all of our CSS inside this style tag, right? So this is called internal CSS. You inside the HTML file, you just add the CSS syntax and you make it it's internally a part of the file, you know. So there's also 2 other ways of writing CSS. Internal CSS was we just covered. Now we have external and inline CSS. External CSS is nothing, but you just use a different sheet to write the same steps. So why do we use external CSS? So imagine you're making a website and it has 4 or 5 pages, like it has a navigation bar which says home, about, and different things. And when you go to about, it takes you to a different page. So generally, website have a similar design on all the pages, you know. So if you make say change of size now, suppose you styled a website and it has say 20 pages, and you have used the style tag and all the same style tag and all those 20 HTML files, you copy pasted it on all the 20 files, and now you're using it on a website. Now suppose you wish to change, you think that the font size looks a little small and you want to change it to some other value, say from 20 you want to change it to 25 pixels. So what we will have to do is you have to change this value continuously in all the 20 inside all the style tags of all the 20 HTML files, which is a really cumbersome task and something not at all suggested. So practically what do? We keep an external style sheet. We make a style sheet, like we just make a document. Again, you can open Notepad, write this CSS. This is somewhat this. I have attached a figure, which is an example of how a CSS file looks like. So you just open your text editor. You use the CSS syntax to write the CSS code or the sheet, and then when you save it, you add the extension .css. So say I save a file called mystyle.css. So I'll use this in all the 20 pages. So what will I do? Instead of adding the style tag inside my head, I'll add this particular line inside the head tag. So what this says is, this link is related to the style sheet, and href means which page is it supposed to use. It's supposed to use mystyle.css. This is assuming that your HTML file and your CSS file are within the same folder. Assume you have added this CSS file inside some other folder. You can add the relative path or the absolute path here. This is actually a way of using CSS files: external CSS, internal CSS, and inline CSS. So external is when you use a different file. Internal, just as we used right now using the style tag inside the head tag. And inline CSS means when you write these tags, here itself you assign them some properties. So the syntax is again same. See, this is a property, this is a value, and this is one declaration, which is a property and value are separated by a colon, and you have a semicolon separating two declarations. So the format is same, but instead of writing it inside the style tag inside the header of the file or externally, you just add it within your HTML file along with a tag. Like suppose you write h1, there itself you write this, and you just do it within the line where you are writing your code. So there is a preference. So assume what? Inside I use internal CSS and inline CSS. Assume I'm using it. And internal CSS means I have assigned some color inside the head of my style tag, assigned background color to h1 tag. So on h1 tag I've assigned color to red. Okay, and within this same file, when I write and I add this same line within that same file, that is, I assign color blue when I write it in inline CSS. This is all going in the same file. So what will it do? It will take the command of the inline CSS file and not take the command of the internal CSS file. So that's how the cascading order is. So it will first listen to the inline CSS. Like if it says color blue, it will keep the color blue, irrespective of whatever you give command in the internal CSS. And then it considers internal and external CSS depending upon the sequence of how you have written them. So the one written later actually applies. So color, how do you add color? So there are three formats you will generally use. So one is RGB format, hex code, and these predefined colors. So every color is made up of red, green, and blue, three colors. It's a composition of these three colors. So when you just say, so I've given an example in the form of an inline CSS. So when you want to assign, say, a background color to your h1 tag, so you write style equal to background color. This is the property, and this there comes a colon after property, and this is the value assigned to it. So value assigned is RGB 255, 99, 17. That is 255 proportions of red, 19 proportions of green, and 71 proportions of blue gives one color. And there is one more format of writing colors, which is called hex code. So these are hexadecimal codes which are different for every shade and every color. So these are six-digit codes which have digits, alphabets, and generally people prefer using hexadecimal codes because these provide you a wide range of shades and colors. And you can also use RGB format. No one remembers these. Which hexadecimal code is this or which RGB code is this. You just Google the color you want to use. You just search hexadecimal code for, say, pink, and you will get a hexadecimal code and you use it. And you even want to know which color is this, just type it on Google, you will get the color. No one remembers these codes. And within CSS, there are also 140 predefined colors which you can directly use to add color to your file. One of the examples is tomato. There are 139 more other colors. You can directly Google the 140 predefined colors in CSS and you'll get a list, and you can use any of them to add color to your whichever tag it is. And to add color to your text, you use property as color, like the way I've used it here. The property is color. This is the value assigned to it. To add color to your background, you use the property background color. That is like the way we have used it here. The property background color, and here is the color. So, and to color border, you use property border. Just write border here and just write the name of the color. The border of the text will get a certain color. So there are different type of ways to add a border and different types of border actually. So here are so many examples. I will just cover one or two and you can discover the others later. I'll be sharing the slides. So I'll cover the dotted and the dashed border. So inside the style, I have given border style equal to dotted and dashed. This is the only CSS command which is required to be sent. So, but instead of writing it in an inline format, I have used the inline internal CSS file to give this command. So I have given p.dotted gets this. So p.dotted means p is the element of the HTML and dotted is its class because it is attached by a dot. So I'll just look up here the p which the p tag which has the class of dotted will be a dotted border because the p tag which has the class of dotted has been given command of border style equal to dotted. Similarly, p with a dashed is given a border style equal to dashed, and thus p with the class of dashed will get a dashed border. Similarly, we have other borders and different border styles. You can discover all of them. You can assign different colors to them using just the property I told you a page before. So there are three more things in CSS. So I'll be covering three, actually padding and margin within this. So what I've used is I've styled the list using colors. So padding is you get a padding around the box in all the four corners. So, and margin gives you a margin towards the box, towards the outside. I hope you understand the difference between the padding and the margin. Padding comes towards the inside, like spacing you get from the border, and margin is the marking of the border, like the one which is outside it. So there are actually four ways to give commands for both padding and margin, which are same for both of them. So I'll just show you the commands. So margin left will assign a margin towards the left side. Similarly, margin right will assign this but itna pixels of margin towards the right. Similarly, margin top and margin bottom. And also we have padding left, padding right, padding top and padding bottom. The best way to actually visualize what each command does is the way you need to try them out. Open your files whenever you're working with them and just try different commands like margin left, just add 50 pixels of margin towards the left and you'll realize the difference between margin and padding very easily. So just try out things, you'll get them. And when you give the command for padding, you can actually write, say if I say padding 20 pixels, this adds a padding of 20 pixels on all the four directions like top, bottom, left and right. When I give it command like 20 pixels and say I have also given space 40 pixels, which means the top and the bottom will have a padding of 20 pixels and the left and the right will have the padding of 40 pixels. This is just an order. And so, say I give instead of 2, I give 3 values, 20 pixels, space 40 pixels, space 60 pixels. So what does that mean? The top will get 20 pixels of padding, the left and the right will get 40 pixels of padding and the bottom will get 60 pixels of padding. So these are different ways. You do not need to memorize all of them. You can Google them anytime. Just all you need to remember is which property you want to use so that, you know, padding just adds a border, like a padding to my list in this format. I want to add this design. So I'll just look up which command is this. Just Google padding in CSS or something. You will get how to give in the command and stuff. Well, it's pretty easy and intuitive if you also remember just how I explained it. So I'll just go through this code once for you to be familiar with it. So here I've given different style. Again, I've used internal CSS and I've given different styles to the ordered list and the list items of the ordered list. So the ordered list is this entire list and the list items are just this, the 1, 1, 2, 3. Okay. So the for the ordered list, first I've given is the background to be a color, which is a hexadecimal code, and I have given it a padding of 20 pixels. So this particular thing has a padding of 20 pixels from all the corners, from here, from here, from here, and from here as well. But the list items of the ordered list have a padding of 5 pixels and a margin left of 35 pixels. That's the reason this one is more separated from here, because this particular list item has a margin of 35 pixels from this external border. And it has a padding of 5 pixels, which means distance from here and this top file both are 5 pixels for each element. And it is also given a background which is slightly lighter color than the outer background, which gives it this a better look of the lighter and the darker shade. Similarly, for the unordered list, I've given it a border and a padding. So it has a border, it has thumb background, and the padding is 20 pixels from all the 4 sides. In the unordered list, I've also given the list items a margin of 5 pixels. So since all items have a margin of 5 pixels, I can see this dark blue between these light colors, because I've given a pixel difference, a margin between these list items of 5 pixels. Here we do not see the dark color in between because there is no margin in the list items. Okay, there's just a margin left, which is margin is this from this side. When I say just margin of 5 pixels, it is taken margin from all the 4 sides. So it has also taken a margin on the top and the bottom. So you can see the dark color in between. So this is my order list, HTML, CSS, website hosting. There's three elements. And this is my unordered list, which has 3 elements. I enjoy WNCC workshops. WNCC is the coolest club, and WNCC is not a cat club, in case you got confused after the HTML session. So we can also add icons. So you can use Google icons to add icons to your website. So what I've done here is, inside the head, I've just added a link of a style sheet. So similarly, as we add for an external style sheet, we have a similar format for adding of icons. So link, you just add a rel equal to style sheet and a href which goes to the Google APIs of the font. So this gives you access to all the icons which Google has left open source for you to use. So you can use it in this way. So all you do is I class equal to material icons, and you write the name of the element and just use it. So cloud gives a cloud, and now how will you know what is this known? Is this a pin or an attachment? So you just Google icons. So you will get the first link and you open it. It will give you the format in which you are supposed to write it, and also the names which will give you the different icons. So how do you know that heart gives that favorite? On writing favorite, you get hearts and stuff. So that's given on this website of this Google APIs. So just write Google icons, and the first link will give you the names of these different icons. So this is how you actually use these icons. I've written in this form, I class equal to material icons and just the name of the icon, and you close it. Now assume I want to style this. So I want this heart, but I want it in red color and it in a bigger size. So what do? This is just a plain P tag, which is just giving it a size of 50 pixels. And inside a P tag, I've used this I tag, which is I class equal to material icons, similarly just like this. But I also add a style attribute to this, which gives it font size 60 pixels and color red, which makes this heart from this to a bigger size, which is of 60 pixels, and also gives it a color of red. And since all of it is inside a P tag which says WNCC is, and this I tag which says favorite, so WNCC is love is what's printed when you run this. Similarly, you can style different icons according to your to different sizes, to different colors, as you wish. Animation. So one of the best part of CSS is you can add animations without using JavaScript. So let's try this on code. For now, let's just see this part of the code. So let's just run it to see what is that, and then we'll see the reason behind it. So when I run it, this box stays at the same place and it changes colors. So let's see how is this happening and how do you create such animation. Again, I have used an internal CSS file by writing a style tag inside the head and I've written the CSS. So what do you write inside the CSS? So you take a division, you give it some width, give it some height, which is actually the width and height of this box, give it a background color red, which gives it an effect, these are just HTML properties, nothing much, like width, height, background color. For the animation, what I've done especially are these two things and this extra tag. So what is this? I've given a name to this animation named example. The tag here is animation dash name colon example. The property is animation name, and you just set an example, and the animation duration is set to 4 seconds. That is, within 4 seconds this animation is supposed to end. So we use @keyframes rule to make an animation. So I use @keyframes, and then I write this name of this animation, which is example, and I've given some information inside this. So this is the information about what animation is supposed to be performed. So what I've given is a 0, like background color changes from red, yellow, blue, then green, then red. What these percentages tell you is in 25%, first 25% of the time, the color will change from red to yellow. In the next 25%, that is from 25% to 50%, the color will change from yellow to blue, and in the next 25%, the color will change from blue to green, and the next 25%, the color will change from green to red. That's what actually happens. Okay, so this is how I took a box and just assigned different colors to it, and this just runs one time. First, I'll also show you something like this. See. Here what I've done is, now I've assigned it a position relative. What this means is, whenever it is taking its position, it will be taking it relative to the last position it was using. And I've assigned different attributes again. So for the 0% schedule, I've assigned it left 0 pixels and top 0 pixels. So towards the left it is at 0 pixel, from top it's at 0 pixel. For the 25%, I've assigned it 20 pixels to the left. So it goes 20 pixels to the left respective to this. So it goes to this side. Then it goes to, and top is still 0 pixels, same height. So it goes from here to here. Then left and top becomes 200 pixels. So it goes here. Then again, left becomes 0 pixels and top becomes 200 pixels. So the difference from the left becomes 0 and the top is 200 pixels. And left and top again becomes 0 pixels. So it comes back here. So it will be changing color throughout, because you have added this change of color, but also since you're changing coordinates, it will feel as if it's moving from this to this, like it's moving inside a square. Let's just run this. Also, one thing you should remember is animation duration. Do not forget to write this attribution, because this is by default taken as 0 seconds. If I remove this, it will show no motion, because it will assume that the animation got finished within 0 seconds. And there are a few more things you can do to this. You can add animation delay, which will just delay your animation, like it starts simultaneously as I press the button run, right? So, but after I've added this, it will take 2 seconds and then the simulation will start running. This just adds some buffer time before it starts. And you can also do it for how many number of times you want it to move. See, I set it to 2. So this runs twice, because the iteration count was set to 2. You can also set this to infinite. It will keep on going infinitely. All right, it will keep on working infinitely. Just switch this to 2 again and run. Also, since it's moving in one direction, you can also change its direction. I think the command is animation direction itself. Yeah. So there's one more attribute you can add here, which is animation direction. So if I do this reverse, instead of going this way, it will go reverse to this. It will first go down, then to the right, then up, and then back to this position. So animation direction, you can have 4 values here. Normal, which gives the direction you have given, like the command given, so it will go towards in the normal direction. Reverse will take it towards the reverse, that it will go first, just the reverse of what it has covered. You can also use here alternate, which means first it will go forward and then it will do reverse of it. So first it goes forward, then it will go backward. You can also alternate reverse, then it will go first backward and then forward. It just went twice because we have set iteration count to 2, and it starts delayed because we have an animation delay of 2 seconds and you have an animation duration of 4 seconds. So the animation ends within 4 seconds. And what you need to remember is these few attributes. Most important is animation duration. If you do not set this, by default this is 0 and you will not see anything, but the box will remain the same because it will assume the animation gets ended within 0 seconds, and you use @keyframes rule, and then you write the name of your animation and you provide an animation if you want to change its colors in some periods of time, say 0, 25, 50, 75. That's how you add a few of animations. Let's get back. And there's also a way of called responsive websites, as it was covered in the HTML. Like when you create a website, it's supposed to be used on all sort of media, say laptops, tablets, desktops, and also on your mobile phones. So due to different screen sizes, your website should look same in all the 4. It should not look like if you tags get mixed up and you open it in phone because it's a smaller screen or something. So we make responsive websites. So you use @media rule to make responsive websites. We have typically it's a little bit of tough criteria to make a responsive website with using a CSS, but you can actually do it, is what I wanted to convey with this particular section. If you're interested, we can talk about it sometime later. For now, it's a bit tough. Let's just see one example of responsive websites. So as I said, we use @media rule. So what it means is this part of the CSS will only function when both of these elements are true. So let's see it again. So this is my HTML. Inside the style tag, I've given only one attribute, that is body background color equal to light green. This is the only CSS I've given. So everything inside the body will have light green color as a background. But I've also written this media rule with inside this CS style tag, and the media rule says @media only screen and max width 600 pixels. That is when both of these things are true, it will follow this part of the CSS, that is body background color will become light blue. Right now the max width is around 912 into 796, so the width is 912, so we can see light green color because the first part follows. But once I decrease the screen size, this light blue one will become true. I'll just show you. The color changes to light blue as the width decreases to 600, less than 600, and as I exceed 600, it goes to light green again. This is one way, just about to show you how we use @media rule to actually make responsive websites, and we can discuss about it later if you want to know how to make changes to phone and the laptop. So now we have come to the hosting part of your website. So Payal will show you, and this is a live session. So she will show you directly, and there are no slides for it particularly. She'll host a website in front of you right now, and in case you wish to see the steps later, Wiki will help you, and this is the link to the article of Wiki. We will be sharing the slides, so you can access this link. So in case you do not have any doubts in CSS, we can move towards the hosting part.
Yeah, what is the basic difference between a class and an ID?
So ID, so ID is given specifically to one particular element. Say ID. So ID is unique for every element. Say I make a paragraph tag and I say this is a paragraph. I make another paragraph tag and I say this is second paragraph. So all of these elements will have different IDs, you know, even if it's a H1 tag and the other is some other tag, all of them are supposed to have different IDs. So one particular element will only have the particular ID. So when you style an ID, just design one particular line or one particular element. That is, this is the first paragraph. Only that is the part which is going to have a design. Whereas class, you do it for everything. Like a H1 tag will have a class, can have the same, an H1 tag and a P tag can have the same class, two P tags can have the same class, while ID is unique for a one particular element. So that's the difference. When you want to design one unique element, you use ID, the hashtag, and when you want to design, apply same design to a lot of elements, you use class.
Thank you.
So there's a question, is HTML used by professionals? Every website has basic HTML structure. You just add JavaScript and other different elements to make it more functional. But every website begins with an HTML code, literally every website. If you want to explore Jekyll, you know, it's just a compilation of CSL and HTML files, but in a more structured and a complex manner. The syntax is actually, it consists of HTML and CSS files, but you use it in a different way to come up with a really good and better organized structure. That WNCC official website has made it using Jekyll. Spelling is, you spell it as JAKYLL.
Function of meta tag. Okay, so meta tag is used to used for making the web page responsive enough. We use okay, I'll just share my slides again if possible. Yeah. So the meta tag is used to create a responsive website. This is how you define a meta tag. You write the you set the viewport of the viewport of the page. This will give instructions to like you here you want the width content to be equal to the device width and the initial scale to be 1. So this will actually give instructions to the web browser on how to control the page dimensions and scaling. This is how you make a page responsive.
Payal, please cover the division tag once. Like there are a few questions because I use it in the CSS. Just describe it in short.
Okay, maybe we can cover that after the hosting session because I'll have to include them in my HTML files.
Also, if someone got confused about padding and margin, there's an image which Divyansh has posted. If you can't, I think I'm sharing my screen. Maybe. So, if you see this image, so this is the border, and margin is the distance which goes towards outside, and padding is which comes towards inside. So if I write content inside this, it will be adjacent to the border. But when I add padding to it, the content will have some space from the border inside it. Like if the content was written here, it will come somewhere here if I add some padding towards the top and the left. And margin, it's the margin goes towards the outside. So when I add margin to a particular element, you get space with other elements, not with the border and the content, but the border gets space with other elements which are above and below the text.
Okay, then let's start with the hosting part. So now that you have learned to make HTML and CSS files, now you invest, let's suppose you make a website, you invest your 4 to 5 hours of work and 4 to 5 hours of time, and then you want to show it to your friends in world, right? So how do you show that? Till now, all the websites were hosted on local servers. So if there was no way you could share it with your friends or family other than taking snapshots. Now you want to host them on a server so that your friends can check them out. So we'll do that right now. This is the link to our wiki page, which has all the steps you'll have to follow in order to host your website. We have covered 2 different ways. First is GitHub pages and another is IIT Bombay user space. So there's a tutorial or the documentation by GitHub, which in case you want to use GitHub to host your website, you can follow them. Right now, I'll be demonstrating how to host your website using the IIT Bombay user space. So every LDAP in the institute is allotted a server space. You can access them here. Yeah. So you'll have to log in using your LDAP. Once done, you'll get something similar to this. You'll have some predefined folders and stuff which will help you get started. The steps to hosting your website is after the successful login, you'll have to create a public_HTML folder in your home directory. Then copy all your web pages, your HTML files, your CSS files. In case you're using images, then you'll have to add them all. Make sure there's an index.html file. Yeah, so you'll have to rename your HTML file to index.html file, and this is where your web page will be hosted. Let's do it. So I already have a public_HTML folder. You can just go and make a new folder from here. Right now I'm skipping that part because I already have this public_HTML folder here. So here, this is an empty folder. Let me just add the HTML file which we made in the HTML session. Yeah, so this was the code which we wrote during the HTML session. Now, as I told you, we need to rename this to index.html. Yeah. Let's just refresh this. Yeah, and so here your web page will be hosted here. Just change in place of just plug in your LDAP ID And here you go. This was the web page we created, right? So yeah, it is very simple. It would be better if you could try it out right now. I can send you the code. Just try it. Just save this code and run. Just use Notepad to run it. Save this code and try hosting it up. Here's the code. Just copy this. Okay. Let me give you a shorter code. Let's do it together. Open Notepad, all of you. I hope. Let's do it. Open Notepad. Copy paste the code I've sent you on chat box. Save the code. With HTML extension. Now go to bighome.iitb.ac.in. I've sent the link on chat box. Go to this link. Log in via your SSO or LDAP. No one is facing any problem. If you have any problem, you can put them in your chat in the chat box. Once logged in, you'll have some predefined folders. Make a new folder with the name public_HTML. Site isn't loading. Which site? home.iitb.ac.in. Is it loading?
Some of you stop trying for a few minutes, I guess, and then if the server gets free, you will all be able to access it. Maybe there's a server traffic.
It's slow, yeah. It will load in some time. Traffic. Just wait for some time, it will load. Folder name is public_HTML. Public_HTML.
Please stick to the same names as she's saying because it won't be hosted if you do anything else.
This one.
And the site will load. Please wait for a few seconds.
Mine is hosted. Yeah, nice. So yeah, you can put them on your chat in the chat box for others to see once hosted. What after uploading index file in public HTML? Okay, so after that, once you have done that, your web page will be hosted automatically. You just need to visit. I'll just send you the link. Yeah, so visit this link in place of the LDAP ID thing. Just plug in your own roll number, and yeah, you'll be able to see it. Nice work. So yeah, once public, I hope everyone has done this. Once public underscore HTML folder is created. Why is the server so slow? You just upload your file which you have saved, rename it to index.html, and then visit the link I've sent on chat box. Plug in your roll number in place of the LDAP ID, and that's all.
Showing that URL is not found on the server.
Yeah. So in place of the LDAP ID, just replace the LDAP ID with your roll number.
There is no such column.
Just paste this link in the browser and edit the link.
So yeah, I'll just show you it. So this is the link, right? This is what it shows you,
Yes.
right? Yeah. So just edit the link. In place of LDAP ID, write your roll number. Okay. See. Yeah, nice. Yeah, nice. You can try adding tags in that HTML code. Check it out for yourself. Try adding a paragraph, some horizontal lines, some breaks, some lists, some tables. Add CSS. Okay, so in case you have an external styling sheet or some images, all you have to do is in the same folder just keep adding them, the CSS file and the images which you use in the very same folder, public underscore HTML.
All the time we should use same name, index.html.
Yeah.
For the new folders.
No, in the folder you have a folder called public underscore HTML, right? Now only the HTML file has to be named index.html. For the style sheet and for the images, you don't have a particular name. You can rename them according to your own choice.
If we want to add a new file for this, in the folder public underscore HTML,
yeah,
then the name should be changed or
Now, only for the first HTML, for the basic index. Like if you want to link another HTML file to this, it's okay. You just name it according to your own choice. But the basic index file has to be named index.html.
Okay.
How to open from Visual Studio Code. Okay, so for Visual Studio, from the Visual Studio, the way I was doing it was using a live server. You have an extension for that. You'll have to install the extension, but this again will open it in the local server. So just try, I'll send you the link for the extension. So you just open it with live server here, and yeah, it'll open in your browser. As you can see here, this is a local server.
After that getting printed on the screen, how can we get the URL for the page?
URL for the which page?
Now, after replacing with our roll number, we got a page.
So you got okay, wait.
Yes, after this.
Yeah, you got this. You got this, right?
Yes.
Yeah. So you just copy this and paste it here anywhere. Send it to anyone you want. Like I just copied it and I'm sending it here.
Okay.
I think most of you are done with the website hosting part, and we can announce the hackathon now. Anyone who has any more doubts or questions, we'll be there for 20 more minutes. You can ask your doubts separately in a live session. There will be 4 channels on this team where you can ask your respective doubts. So I'll just present my screen. Payal, you need to unpresent.
Yeah, sure.
What we have to do after uploading that index.html file?
Just open the link which Payal sent you, which has LDAP, like, what is the message is sent at 3:38. Open that link and edit that part which is written LDAP Replace it with your phone number, LDAP ID, sorry.
I'll do it again. See, this is the link I sent you right now. Just open that link. You get a web page like this, right? Not found.
Yeah.
Yeah. So what you do is just edit this link in place of this LDAP ID. Plug in your roll number.
Okay.
You can share this website with anyone. Anyone who opens with this link will see the same web page, while the one without hosting is visible on your local server, and you can only see that file. No one else is able to see it unless you host it on Begum or GitHub or any other service. So the hackathon starts now and it goes up to the next 24 hours. To just make it precise, it is up to the next, it will go on. It will be open up, the last date of submission, time for submission would be 4 o'clock in the afternoon tomorrow, 20th December. So, and the rules of the hackathon are you have to use at least 5 of these 7 tags in your HTML code. The 7 tags are H1 to H6 headings, the P paragraph tag, the links, the A tag, that is image, audio, video, or GIF. You have to include lists, style tags like bold, italic, center, break line, horizontal line, and comments. And for the CSS sheet, you have to use at least 4 of these 7 things. And these 7 things are you need to add color to your text, background, or the border. You can add animations, you can add transitions, And you can add icons, margin, padding, and border. These are minimum things which you need to include for the website to be legible for hackathon. You can add many more tags, and you can include a lot of things so so that your website just looks better than the others. And you have to finally host the web page you created on GitHub or Big Home. Just replace the file with the index.html file which you just uploaded, and you also add the mystyle.css, that is a style sheet, within the same folder, and the other images as well. And that's it. So the summation details are, this is the link. I will be sharing the slides, so you will get this link. So this is the form in which you have to upload. So what you need to do is you need to upload your code. That is all the files. That is the HTML file, the CSS file, all of the images which you are using. You have to upload, take all of them in a folder and upload the folder on a Google Drive and share the drive link with us. Give us the viewing rights for it. And you also need to add the link of the URL of your website. If you host on Big Home, it is similar to what you just got right now. And if you host on GitHub, you just send us the URL. So this form will have 2 columns in which you will have to fill both of these. You have to participate individually. There is no team participation for this hackathon. And all the best, and feel free to contact us for any doubts on Telegram and Teams. You can message a convener personally or ask on the group if you have any other doubts related to session, or if it's somewhere you're stuck while making your website for the hackathon, you can ask for help. And also for the next 20 minutes, we will have a live doubt session where you can discuss about everything covered today, ranging from the orientation part, you need to know about some initiatives, resources, or community, or if you need have some doubts in HTML, CSS, or website hosting, feel free to ask. There are 4 different channels, I guess. You can go to each one of them, and all the best. Happy coding.
Just to add to what Anshu said, for the hackathon, you'll have to create your own personal website, the personal landing page. You can draw inspirations from some of the websites hosted by the conveners. I'll send you the links. You can check them out. So yeah, it should be your own personal landing page. We'll get to know about you maybe via that. Yeah.
Yeah, if you do not feel like participating in a hackathon, if you think you cannot make a very huge website, just make a basic website which describes about you, and you can share it with us so that we get to know you people. And that's it, maybe. Yeah, and do not use any themes or already pre-designed HTML themes or something. Create a website from scratch.
When will you post the slides?
Just after the session, we'll upload. Yeah. We'll add on the Teams, and we'll also make a Facebook post, I guess, where you can get it.
Also send them on Telegram groups.
And also the recording, no?
Yeah,
Recording will be available on MS Teams, right? So you can
Uh,
access it from here.
Okay.
Recording will be available, but we cannot access them until you post them on the files tab or anywhere else.
Yeah, I'll make sure I post it. So if you do not see it within the next 15 minutes up to 4:15, message any of us if there's some glitch. Hopefully
We'll
it will be
also
posted by
we'll also post the
4:15.
recording on our YouTube channel. So yeah.
After uploading the file on public_HTML, when I tried to search homepages.iitb, it is showing this facility is not available on homepages IITB.
Can you share your screen and show me?
Well, on MS Teams, I am using my phone. Just a second.
So just take a screenshot and send to Payal personally, I guess. That's better.
Yeah.
I'll stop the recording, I guess.
Yeah. Okay, some people have doubts about the CSS part. Where do we write the CSS codes? You can write CSS codes on Notepad.